Welcome everyone to another Life and Student Ministry video post. My name is Tim Schmoyer, and I'm hanging out with Mark Riddle from the Riddle Group. Mark, would you just share real briefly kind of what the Riddle Group does and the services that you provide? And then I want to talk a little bit about becoming a healthy youth ministry and your advice on that.
Yeah, I started the Riddle Group in June of 2005. I started doing it full-time. I'd been doing consulting for a while before that. And it came out of this desire to help churches be more healthy in how they engage youth ministry. And so what we do is we come in and sometimes myself and one of our other consultants come in on site and interview everybody under the sun. We interview junior high kids in groups. We interview high school kids, parents, youth workers, staff, elders, the whole deal. And in that process, we assess how things are going, how they're healthy, how healthy are they, and then give a roadmap towards being more healthy.
Okay.
So that's it in a nutshell. Often churches will say, would you help us along the way becoming more healthy? Would you help us implement these things? And so we do that as well.
Okay. So what is that process that you see for becoming a healthier youth ministry? Will you give some insights into becoming a healthier youth ministry and that kind of process that leads to it?
Yeah, I think that most senior pastors or church leaders ask the wrong question in the beginning. They want to know about hiring someone quickly, and there's a sense of urgency to do that, and it's because that's just the way a lot of times youth ministries are built, or around youth staff, so there's an urgency to get somebody new in.
Yeah.
But there's a need up front to really sit down and reflect on why we do youth ministry, and to go through a process before you even start looking for somebody. Why do we do youth ministry? Who in our church loves youth? How do we own it as a congregation? And let's take our congregation through a process of actually owning the youth ministry.
Yeah.
So what we do with the Riddle Group is a church will take a process, and this process may be 9 months, it may be a year and a half, where we're walking through this process together without a youth pastor. But by the end of the process, the church is owning every aspect of youth ministry. So every van ride that needs to be organized, and every lodging, campground that needs to be found, and every inflatable that needs to be rented, every bulletin announcement and every administrative detail is all taken care of by the community of the church. And then the youth pastor comes into an environment that's way more healthy. It creates more longevity, and it creates an environment where the youth pastor can actually be who God created them to be. They can use the gifts God gave them to use, and they don't have to worry about the other stuff.
So how does that start then with the hiring process? Does it start with the resume and interviews, or does it need to start somewhere else, or how does that work?
Well, I am a big fan. Once a congregation says we're ready to start looking for somebody, what's great in these churches that are doing this process in advance is that there's not a sense of urgency. That when the church is really owning it, the urgency from the leadership kind of goes away. There's still some voices always in the congregation that are like, we need more. We need to hear. We need a youth pastor fast. But there's a sense of in the process, that hiring someone would hurt our congregation if we hire somebody too soon. After they get to that point where they're ready to hire someone, I think it comes down to, I'm a big fan of first looking inside, kind of the farm team approach, who's in the church that's already doing this, who gets who we are as a church and gets our DNA, and who can we kind of help, who's already doing this, how can we help them do this more. And then I'm also big on relationships. And so so if there's somebody that as a church leader that's a youth pastor or somebody that that you start building in some of those relationships. And it's not a hurried deal. It's not a 30-minute conversation and then a 1-hour interview with a search committee and then a 2-day visit and then will you come? It's taking more time, and it's a longer process.
So how does that process look like then for both the youth leader who's looking for the church and the church who's looking for the youth leader? What would that process look like that's more than just a resume and the interview that would take longer?
I think that there's a need to, I think it has to do with conversations. Getting online allows for a lot of interactivity.
Yeah.
Being able to see, this is a pretty great thing that you've got going here, Tim. So like helping people learn how to do this, or be able to sit down and have a conversation with a senior pastor for over a period of time. Asking questions like, what's been frustrating for you in the church this week? What's been frustrating in your context? As time goes on and you're able to interact longer and longer, it allows for you to see the weaknesses or the pet peeves of other people so that you're able to know what makes them tick. Or if these are my people,
Right.
And then once you've kind of got that, then you can start saying, if you're a church leader, I wonder what it would look like to have somebody come in and sit down with my team that's already doing the youth ministry.
Right.
And let them do some work with them and interact and training and see how it goes.
I still can't help but think there would be some pressure, though. Like if you were a senior pastor or committee, and I know in your book here, Inside the Mind of Youth Pastors, you talk a little bit about that whole committee approach too. But I don't think I could honestly not feel some sort of intimidation or pressure if you were if I knew you were at a church that was thinking about hiring me.
Sure.
It would be hard for me, I think, as the youth worker to have that on an ongoing basis over extended period of time emotionally,
Yeah, tell me more about that. I mean, what do you think that's rooted in?
Probably a mindset that's not very healthy, but I would feel...
but I'm just asking.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, there is. There absolutely is. There's a sense of pressure of, and so why would we submit ourselves to a process that is so pressurized and with such a few amount of hours, and then cut somebody loose
right
after such a pressurized environment to go spend thousands of hours with our kids and just kind of outsource it? It makes no sense at all.
Well, I totally agree with the relationship thing. You got to have with the person first and spend time and spend life together.
Right.
But I was how much of my life am I going to give you before you say, you know what, we're going to hire someone else instead, and then boom, the relationship just ends. That would be what I would be feeling as a youth leader. Is that kind of what happens, or not really?
Well, I think in some ways there's a need for there to be multiple layers to this. The first time I contact you, Tim, I'm not going to say, hey, let's start building a relationship because I'm thinking about hiring a youth pastor at some point. It's going to be like, hey, I like you. I'm intrigued by you. I see some things in you that are remarkable. I'd love to get to know you more and hear more about who you are. You have no idea. I've got, that I'm looking for somebody.
Yeah,
and frankly, senior pastors and church leaders probably would, and for youth pastors, frankly, too, to spend some time with people out, that without an agenda, just getting to know people from other church staffs that are not in the same position you are would be generally very healthy for people. So
yeah. Well, thank you, Mark, for hanging out with us and giving us some of your feedback. And like we've always said, if they want to get in touch with you, you're more than open to talk with youth workers and churches who are kind of going through this kind of a process of staffing. Where would they find you, both email and website and Twitter and Facebook, whatever?
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, email would be mark@theriddlegroup.com. My blog is theriddlegroup.com/blog. You can go to the hub of all things, that everything, the church I lead, the Riddle Group, the courses I teach, seminary stuff, all that stuff is at markriddle.net, and Twitter's Riddle Group. That's enough for now. There's plenty of points.
One of those has got to work.
I hope so. That's right.
So short from social security number, that'll work great.
That's right.
So guys, thanks for hanging out. If you'd like to talk with Mark, please feel free to do that, or me at timschmoyer.com. See you again soon for another Life in Student Ministry video post.